everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be doing a physical media pickup video for the month of September. And for those that don't know or don't remember, I actually did mention a few times that I was actually out of town for a little bit of September because I was visiting my hometown, and I had a great time there with a lot of friends and family, and of course I also did a lot of shopping there because I picked up a lot of random shit. Random shit that I have a hard time finding around in my area, so I got a lot to cover here, so hopefully this won't take too long to get through, but it probably will be. But anyways, just like as always, you can listen to this as background like noise for something when, you know, hopefully you might get something out of it. And of course, just bring the discussion in here if there's anything in here that you know about. So anyways, let's just get right to it. So first up, we're going to be talking about the video games, the thing that pretty much everyone is like wondering about with these videos. And we're going to talk about some Switch games. I happen to get 3 of them, and this one right here is Cruisin' Blast. And yes, this game is exclusive on the Switch at the moment, as far as I remember. But yes, so this is a racing game from like the Cruisin' series, which they haven't made a game in like forever. And I gotta say, this game is really fucking awesome. I really love it a lot so far. Like, you know, it's just like very fun arcade action, you know, very mindless, but also like has a bit of challenge to it too. But man, I just love like how like over the top and unrealistic it is. It's just like the old cruising games where, you know, it's one of those racing games where there's no like laps or anything. It's just like, you know, get from point A to point B and make sure you get first and all that. And of course, I just love like the cars that you can get in it. And in fact, you can even get like really like other crazy shit. Like you can get like a freaking helicopter, a UFO spaceship, and even a freaking dinosaur. like how could you not love that? So yeah, I've been having a blast, so to speak, with this game. So yeah, if you love racing games like I do, with like, you know, like the very arcade ones that are not simulation at all, then yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. And next up we got is Wonder Boy, Asha, and Monster World, or what I used to know this game as was Wonder Boy Monster World 4, because this is a remake of the original game that was on the Sega Genesis, well, the Mega Drive, since it was Japan only at the time. But yeah, so I played the original version, and I've always enjoyed it, even though I never like beat the game. But I always thought it was like a pretty good like action platformer with like some Metroidvania elements to it there, and also some light RPG elements as well. But yeah, so this remake version kind of like redoes all the graphics. I haven't like got around to playing this exact version just yet, but I definitely will really soon. But yeah, like I said, it's always cool to just get like little like remakes of like games like this. Alright, and as for the last Switch game, and this is one that I wasn't expecting on getting. In fact, actually, I kind of got it mixed up with another one, and that happens to be Super Mario Party. So here's the thing. When I saw this at the store, I actually thought this was the latest one that they put out that was all like the like, you know, all the old mini games into one and have all like the old maps and boards and everything. But no, this is actually like the latest like new one that they put out. So I was kind of like, well, okay, well, I might as well just play it since I have it now. And so I actually played this with some of my friends when I was over in my hometown, and I gotta say, I think out of all like the newer Mario Party games, this is probably the best one since Mario Party 7 in my opinion, because Mario Party 7 was like the last great one in my opinion. 8 was just kind of like okay, and then 9 and 10 were just fucking awful. But then this one though, I actually think this one's actually quite enjoyable. I actually really like it. So it has a lot of like different things about it that were kind of interesting, and I kind of like the way how they did it, where that like you can actually acquire like your other playable characters on your team, and they can give you like extra like dice rolls and stuff. Like, I actually kind of like that. And also the mini games in here from the ones I played were actually really good. Like even some of the ones that were mostly like with the motion control type shit, like even some of those ones actually weren't that bad either. And like I said, it's just a traditional like dice roll thing. No one's moving around the board at the same time and all that fucking bullshit. So yeah, I gotta be honest, this is a pretty good new entry. Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised, even though, like I said, I was kind of hoping this was gonna be the old classic one together. But I mean, hey, I'm not disappointed, especially for the price I paid for this too, because, you know, I was actually at Walmart the other day and they were still selling this shit for like $80 fucking dollars, and I got this for like 30 used. So yeah, fucking steal right there for a Nintendo IP. Alright, so we got two more video games left, and they happen to be on the original Xbox, and this is one that I've always been wanting to get, just out of curiosity, and because, you know, it's also part of a series that I like, and that happens to be Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dawn of Destiny. I had to, like, remember the fucking name of it there, but yeah, so yeah, this is the one of the other early experimental Yu-Gi-Oh games from back in the day that was exclusive on the Xbox. So, you know, like, around this time, like, you know, PS2 got Duels of the Roses, which is, like, one of my favorite underrated games, and then the GameCube, unfortunately, got the worst one, and that was Falsebound Kingdoms, because it's fucking ass. But then, you know, Xbox got this one, and you know, if you got this game brand new back in the day, you could actually get the Winged Dragon of Ra, which was pretty fucking cool. But unfortunately, you know, I didn't have an Xbox back then, and you know, and I could rarely afford games, so I never got it back then, unfortunately. But yeah, so I was always curious about wanting to try this one, because as you know me, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh guy, and of course I only care about the old Yu-Gi-Oh shit, none of this new fucking whatever they have now. So yeah, I was always curious about wanting to try this one out. And as for the last Xbox game and the last video game in this pickup video, this is one that I was actually surprised I found in like as good condition as it was, and that happens to be Otogi 2, the FromSoft hack and slash that like not many people talk about, because you know everyone always talks about their usual shit. But yeah, so I played the first Otogi a couple years ago, and I liked it, but it was one of those games where it was kind of hard because of like it had like a really strict time limit, and of course the levels in these games like looked really cool, so I really want to just explore around, but then in the time limit's like, no, fuck you, you gotta like do your shit or else you're getting game over kind of thing. But I don't know if this one will be like that, even if it is sort of like that, but there is one thing about it that that does really interest me about it, is that this game actually has quite a bit of playable characters in it. Yeah, there's like 6 of them. And you know, for like a Devil May Cry type of like hack and slash game, you know, ones where like you wander around an area, gate gets closed up, and then you just gotta kill everything in the room sort of thing. Like, this one has 6, and that's a pretty good amount for like an early like 3D hack and slash like in 6th gen, because you know, not even Devil May Cry 5 has like 6 playable characters, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, you know, just like with Otogi though, I just love like the way it looks. Like I love like the way these characters look. In fact, I always thought the main character, I think his name is like Reiko or something. I always thought he kind of looked a little bit like Yoshimitsu-ish. So, you know, like I always wanted a Yoshimitsu like hack and slash game. Well, this is the closest I'll get to that. So, yeah, I can't wait to play this one relatively soon. Alright, now we're going to be talking about the DVDs and Blu-rays, but first we're going to talk about the one anime DVD I got, and this is one that, surprisingly, I actually didn't find this in my hometown. I actually found this in my area, like, just before I left, and yeah, I'm really glad I picked it up, because it was quite surprising, and that happens to be, the Martian successor, Not a Cisco, or, you know, like, you can probably see the title, like, right here, because it's on the side. But yeah, this is what like all the box looks like, and how the DVDs are in there. And yeah, this is fucking brand new. It's still sealed. Like, look, I can just like hang it off of like here and you know all that. But yeah, like I was so shocked when I found this shit like in the condition that it's in, because I thought this was gonna be like really fucking expensive, but it wasn't. It was only like $40, and it was like, damn. Well, might as well pick it up then. And I've never seen this anime, but I've always wanted to, because I always thought it looked cool. I mean, for one, it's a mecha anime made in the 90s, so, you know, I love all, like, the designs and such. In fact, not only the character designs I like, but I also like the mech designs, too. And the story, from what I remember of the story of this, I think it's, like, I think I remember it having, like, a pretty basic plot. It's just, you know, like humans like on Earth are having a war against like an alien race, and then you know they get like the mech shit and the fight. You know, that's what I do remember what it was about. I'm sure there's probably a lot more to it than that, but it's been a while since I've like looked into it like in depthly or anything. Well, I never really looked into it in depthly, but yeah, it was always one that I was interested in, and to just randomly find it in this like good condition, like shit. Alright, so now as for the live action movies that I've gotten, I didn't get a lot. In fact, I really didn't find much when I was in Ottawa there, but I found a couple around here that I really wanted. And this one right here is Snowpiercer. Now, I haven't seen this film yet, but the reason why I picked this up was because one YouTuber that I watch, I want to say it was Corrupt Nostalgia. I want to say it was him. He did a collection video and, went through all of his, shit, and it was actually really fun. But, yeah, I want to say this was a movie that he mentioned in that, and I thought it, sounded, really cool. So I put it on my list a while back, and now I, kind of, forgot what it was all about. But basically, it's, a post-apocalyptic, sci-fi movie that also, was based after a French graphic novel. But aside from that, I don't really remember what else. But, it has a pretty interesting cast. So, you got, Chris Evans and, John Hurt. So that's pretty cool. And next, we got one of my favorite Albert Hitchcock movies, and that happens to be North by Northwest. So, this movie is kind of hard to explain, easily, but basically, it's about this guy who got framed for murder, and he's, running away from the cops, so then, what he's trying to do is that he's trying to get, a new identity, so therefore he's, not, a wanted criminal anymore. But then it turns out that, the new identity that he has was, a decoy, and now there's, other people there trying to chase him down. So then, it's, this whole, weird, confusing thing where you gotta wrap your head around it kind of thing. Like I said, it's hard to, explain it in a way that makes sense. But when you watch it, though, it's not confusing when you watch it. It's just hard to, re-explaining it. But it's just a really fun, thrilling movie. Just on the cover here, the scene where he's getting chased down by the airplane in the cornfield there. That scene is fucking awesome. But this is just a lot of really cool scenes in it too. But yeah, like I said, this is probably one of my favorite Albert Hitchcock movies, next to Vertigo. Alright, as for our first Blu Ray movie, this one is one that I don't really need to say a lot on because it's basically a classic at this point, and that's Goodfellas with, Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci. Like I said, good, classic gangster movie that I haven't seen in a long time, so don't really need to say much on it there, but if you've seen it, then you probably do love this movie. And next we have is Godzilla King of the Monsters, aka the, what year did this one come out? I don't see a date anywhere, but fuck it, whatever. It's, the more, 2010s version of it, because, there's, a lot of movies in the Godzilla franchise that are just called King of the Monsters, so it gets kind of confusing and shit. But, yeah, this is the one that has, King Ghidorah and shit, where his multiple heads all have, different, kind of personalities in them. It's kind of fun. And I would say, out of all the more recent Godzilla movies that have been coming out, this one might be my favorite. It's tough to say. I'd either say this or the recent Godzilla vs. Kong movie was also really good too. I'd either say between those two out of the American ones are probably my favorite. And next up, we got ourselves an Arnold film, and that happens to be Total Recall, the original, not the shitty remake, which is kind of funny because when I picked up this copy on the shelf, this was the only copy they had of the original version, but they had a shit ton of the remake one with Colin Farrell, and I'm just like, that's how you know your remake sucks, when, you just see a shit ton of copies of it on the shelf because nobody fucking wants it, but but yeah, I don't really need to say much on this film. I think it's great, everyone knows about, lines I don't even know anything about Mars, and of course, the other line I really love too, though, just happens just before that, is when he says, "What the fuck did I do wrong?" I just love the way how he says that. It just never gets old for me. But yeah, just another great ass Arnold film. Alright, so as for the last movie that I got here, and this is the big one, and I gotta say, two YouTubers that I know on here are gonna be very proud of me, and that being Turbozone and Tyler Stevenson, because they're the two biggest fans that I know of this whole series, and that's the James Bond collection. Yeah. Motherfucking James Bond. So, yes, there's everything is in here just about. Goes from, 1962 all the way to 2015. So, yeah, basically pretty much every single movie just about. So, yeah, that's really fucking awesome. It's a really nice set, too. Even though, the covers are kind of boring looking, they're just, very plain white, but, but it's still, I like, this box right here is, kind of nice, and, and I like, like that too. But yeah, like I said, it's just nice just to have them like all at once because like before like getting this, I only had like 2 of the movies on DVD, and now I don't have them anymore because I traded them in because now I don't need them. But yes, man, I could go like on and on about some of these movies because like there's a lot I could say about a few of them, but I know this is going to be a really long video, so I'll just kind of go over like just some of my favorite ones. Like from Russia with Love is great, Goldfinger is great. You Only Live Twice. Honor Majesty's Secret Service is like super underrated. Live and Let Die is really good. And, let's see, what else? Okay, then there's Moonraker, which is hilarious. There's actually one scene in that one that, like, really makes me laugh, is that, it's all about, James Bond going into space, but then there's a scene in it where he's, like, on a horse, dressed up, like, in, like, Mexican gear, and it's just like, who the hell, like put that together? It's like, hey, let's make a movie where James Bond goes to space, and we're gonna put a scene where he's, like, on a horse in a desert with, like, wearing, like, a poncho and, like, a fucking Mexican hat. Like, it's just so fucking funny to me. But yeah, that movie's just fucking, like, just so stupid, but it's funny. And then, there's, The Living Daylights is really good. License to Kill is also very good. That's another really underrated one, too. In fact, that one is, like, actually rated R, which is, like, kind of interesting. And then, of course, there was the very first James Bond film I ever seen, which was GoldenEye, which, doesn't come as a surprise if you actually know how old I am and what games I grew up with. And then, there's The World's Not Enough I remember seeing, and I remember that one was kind of forgettable. Though I should probably watch it again, though, because it's been a long-ass time. But, but the game to World's Not Enough is fun. I will say that. And then, like, on this last one, this is all the modern shit. This one has, like, Casino Royale, which is another one of my favorites for sure. And then, like, Skyfall's really good. I've never seen Quantum of Solace or Spectre, though, but, well, now that I have them, I can definitely watch them anytime I want. But, yes. Like I said, I could go more on all this shit, though, but maybe I might do that another day. But still, it's always cool to talk about more James Bond. Alright, so now we're going to talk about some music albums. So these are all just CDs, and in fact, I actually got 3 albums from the same band that I was not expecting to find, like, so, like, frequently. And that happens to be, I found more Camel albums. So just like last time when I got the album Nude, which I really enjoyed a whole lot, well, I found more of their shit. So there's the Snow Goose, which is an all-instrumental album. And a lot of people usually rank this album, like, really high. And I can see why. I mean, it is a really cool album, but for me personally, like, I would say this is like a top 10 album for me. Maybe not a top 5, but top 10 for sure. So that might surprise some people, though. But it's still a very good album. Like, if you love, like, early, like, old, like, prog rock and all that, like, it's still worth listening to. So don't sleep on this album just because I say it's, like, not as, like, amazing as some other ones. Because, this is just me and my weird fucking taste. And then, of course, we got the debut with a pretty trippy album cover. So yeah, this one's also a pretty good debut, I will say. As again, I wouldn't say it's a top 5, but I would say it's top 10 for sure. Because, you got songs like Mystic Queen is great, 6-8, and then Never Let Go was like the one like hit single that they kind of got. And I can see why, because it's a fucking awesome song. Probably might be my favorite on the album, honestly, but yeah. Pretty good debut, I will say. And then I got my favorite album from them, and that's Barrage. Yeah, like I said, personally, this is my all-time favorite from them, with, songs like Free Fall, Super Twister, and then, of course, my favorite song on here is, the 3-piece called, Nimrodol, fuck, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's like Nimrodol, and then it's, like, The Procession, and then The White Rider. It's, like, the 3rd track, and it's, like, 9 minutes long. If you're gonna listen to, like, any song off this album, or anything from this band, listen to that song, because it's fucking great. But like I said, it's 9 minutes long, so it is a little long, but trust me, it's worth it. And then, you got Earthrise, Lady Fantasy, like, man, just the whole album is just fucking amazing. I love it. Like I said, if you love, kind of like Pink Floyd type stuff, like, or Eloy, like, something kind of like mixture between the two, but done in a little more unique way, like, you will fucking love this shit. Alright, next album is from one of my favorite prog bands, and that happens to be King Crimson with Discipline, which is their first 80s album. And this was a very interesting transitional album because their 80s stuff is like very, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it kind of has like a little bit of like the early stuff sound, but it also has like a little bit of like, you know, what was going on with the 80s a little bit. But I also do think it does have a little bit of Talking Heads vibes, but that's probably because of the lead singer that they have during this period. And I will be honest, I'm not a fan of the Talking Heads. Like, I know that probably might piss off some people, but yeah, I'm just not huge into them. But I do like these albums, but I don't hold them as, like, high regard as, like, the early stuff, because, you know, the early stuff is, like, you know, they're, like, easily, like, my top, like, 5 albums of all time, for sure. But I still think this is a really good one, though, that I do think is worth checking out, like, you know, if in case you haven't heard the 80s shit, though, because I still think it's good and interesting, and, like I said, very different than a lot of other stuff that was going around the 80s. And next, we got another prog rock album classic, and that is, ELP's Brain Salad Surgery with its really cool like album cover packaging. It's pretty interesting where like you can like, you know, open up this thing and it reveals like a face and whatnot. It's kind of cool. I haven't even like opened this up yet, but yeah, this is a remastered version of the album, and yeah, definitely one of my favorite albums from ELP. I didn't say this or Tarkus maybe. Or even the debut. Fuck, I don't know. It's hard to say what my favorite one would be. And next, we got something completely different, and that being a grunge album. Now, I will be honest and say I'm not a huge grunge guy. Like, there's a couple bands in that period that I do like, but not many of them. And this is one that I do consider to be one of my favorites from that period. And I know my friend Meltamaster will be happy. He probably already knows what it is, and that's Alice in Chains with Dirt, because it's a dirty album. No, but honestly though, I really love this album a lot. It might be like my favorite from them. You know, you got songs like Them Bones, Wood, you know, Rooster, Angry Chair, you know, just really good shit. Like I said, like, I'm not a huge grunge guy, but I will definitely say that this is probably like the best from that period. And alright, and lastly for the albums, we're going back to kind of like prog rock again. And that happens to be one of my favorite Canadian bands, and that being Rush, where we got Farewell to Kings, which is probably one of my favorite albums from them. And then we got this underrated one, Caress of Steel. Now, I'll go talk about Caress of Steel first, because there's a little bit of an interesting little history piece about it, is that this album, when it came out, like, it, like, did not do well, like, at all. In fact, the band almost, like, broke up over this album, too, which is kind of sad. And for that reason, a lot of people tend to hate on this album and say it's, like, one of their worst ever. But, honestly, after listening to it, like, for what it is, without, like, knowing all that type of shit, I actually think it's really good and very underrated, I think. Like, song like The Necromancer, like, that's some pretty fucking awesome shit. Very heavy. Like, this is probably, like, their heaviest album for sure. And for that reason, I can kind of understand why, like, people that love, like, you know, albums like this and, moving pictures and whatnot would maybe not be into it as much, but I still think this album is definitely worth listening to. Like, you definitely should not sleep on this album. And then, you know, like, Farewell to Kings, like I said, it's, like, one of my all-time favorites. You know, you got, like, the song Xanadu, which is fucking awesome. And also, you know, just a really cool name, you know. That's probably the reason why Neon Falcom decided to name a video game series called Xanadu, was probably because of that song. Okay, probably not, but, you know, that would be cool to think, though. But then, you know, Closer to the Heart, Cinderella Man, you know, like Cygnus X1, like I said, just really good Canadian classic. Alright, next up we're going to be talking about some books, but firstly we're going to talk about some manga, because I actually got quite a bit. And the first ones that we got here, I actually found, like, in, like, my location. I didn't find these on my trip, and I happened to be Death Note Volume 4 and Volume 6. Yeah, why the random numbers? Well, it was all they had, and besides, I'm actually slowly building up my Death Note stuff, because literally, I only had Volume 1 and Volume 13. And Volume 13 isn't even, like, a legit, like, volume. It's just more, like, you know, talks about the lore of the Death Note and how it works and all that. Where you know, these are, you know, actual chapters. But, so, yeah. I don't really have much to say about Death Note, because I'm pretty sure everyone here, like, fucking knows what Death Note is. But, you know, it is one of my favorites. And, you know, it is one that I've always wanted to actually, like, read through myself. Because, you know, I've seen the anime, I think, like, 3 times? Yeah, I want to say I've seen the anime 3 times. Alright, now we got this epic one, and that happens to be Berserk with Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. So I never owned any of the Berserk mangas before. Now, I have read the manga, like, online, like, years ago. I want to say I got to the second arc, I want to say. I think that was how much I read through back in the day. But, yes. So, I finally own these now, which is great. I'm so happy that these are actually easy to get now, because I remember when Miura died, like, the mangas were hard to get because everyone was, like, buying them up and trying to resell them for, like, stupid amount, but now, thankfully, they fixed that, thank God. And I actually decided to get the, like, the single volume releases instead of, like, the giant hardcovers. As much as I wanted that, not only are they expensive, but another thing to keep in mind, too, was that, while I was on my trip, I took the train, and for those that don't know, if your luggage is, like, really heavy, like, they'll actually charge you, so, I was like, yeah, maybe it might be better if I just, like, I don't know, just got these ones for now instead of the hardcovers, so, you know, maybe one day I might try and get those, but I'm pretty content with this, too. And besides, the covers on here are still really cool looking, so, you know, can't really go wrong with that. But, yes. Don't really need to say much about Berserk, because, you know, I've talked about it many times, saying that it is, like, a great series, that it's very dark and violent, and it's just fucking awesome. Alright, now we got a brand new series, and that happens to be Chainsaw Man, and this is Volume 1. And the reason why I only got Volume 1 was kind of a funny story. So, when I was going around to different bookstores in Ottawa, like, I could not find Volume 1, like, anywhere. Like, they had, like, a bajillion copies of, like, Volume 2, 3, 4, and 5, but they had nothing of number 1. So I went to a mall that was on the Quebec side, and, yeah, you know, as you know, it's from Quebec, so they have, like, a lot of, like, fucking French books, which I just don't have no need for that. But they did have a small English section, and they actually had Volume 1, and that's how I got it. Yeah, but unfortunately at that store, like, they didn't have, like Volume 2 and 3. I think they had, like, 5 and 6, but I just figured might as well just get the first one for now, just to see if I like it. And I actually did read this while I was on my trip, on one of the nights where I didn't have much to do. And I gotta say, I think this is a pretty good series so far. I mean, granted, it's only just Volume 1, there's only so much I can say about it, but, you know, I can say just from this, it's pretty good. I'm actually pretty liking it so far. You know, I think it just, not only does it just look fucking cool with, like, the designs and shit, but, and it's also just, like, fucking ultra-violence, and kind of reminds me of, like, you know, like, 90s OVA stuff, which we really don't see much anymore, so I welcome to that. But, yeah, it's actually a pretty cool story. It's about, like, this guy who has, like, this, like, little, like, pig, like, dog thing with him, and then he ends up fusing with it, and that's how he becomes, like, the Chainsaw Man, and then he has to, like, hunt down, like, demons, and then he ends up, like, joining forces at a like, a facility that hunts, like, certain demons and shit. So it's pretty good so far. My only complaint I will say about it is that I do think the main character does kind of act a little bit like a horny horn dog, and, you know, that's a trope that I was just never a fan of. But at least he is not a fucking bitch when it comes to, like, you know, like, women and shit. It's not like that one trope that I'm just so fucking sick and tired of, you know, the ones where, like, it's like, male character surrounds himself with, like, a bunch of chicks, and he has, like, nothing to do with them, because apparently he doesn't know how the fuck they work. But no, thankfully, he's not like that. But still, like, I'm kinda not crazy about the horny horn dog thing, but maybe it might improve as it goes on, but that's only my only small nitpick. Outside of that, I definitely want to try and get more of the other volumes. Alright, now we're gonna do some big ones, like hardcovers, and they happen to be Fist of the North Star, one of my all-time favorites, and I'm really happy that we have these, because these are fucking awesome looking. So we got Volume 1 with Kenshiro on it, and we got Volume 2 with Shin, and then we got Volume 3 with, Ray. Yeah, how did I forget that? But, yeah, so we got the first 3 volumes of Fist of the North Star in hardcover mangas, which is fucking awesome. This is a series that I never expected that we would be getting, like, reprints of, let alone in fucking hardcovers, too, and they're really nice looking. Like, if you put them in order here, like, I'm doing this very slowly here. If you look at, like, the sides, you can kind of see that, like, the blood splatters, like, kind of, like, match up, too. I thought that was a really cool attention to detail, but, yeah, so I don't know what else I can say about this series, because, you know, I've talked about it many times. Like, I've reviewed the anime, I've reviewed some of the video games, and I tend to make references to it all the time. But as we're reading the manga, I have read a little bit of it online years ago, just like Berserk, but I never, like, read the whole thing. But now that we got these, I'll definitely be collecting more of these. Alright, now as for the next manga, this is one that's perfect for the Halloween season, and that happens to be Orochi from Kazuma Umezu. And yeah, just look at that fucking cover. Like, I love the details on that. Even the back cover is like really awesome as well. But yeah, so Kazuma Umezu, I actually reviewed an OVA that was called The Curse of Kazuma Umezu, which was like this like very simplistic like haunted story, and it was like really weird but kind of interesting and all that. Like, it wasn't anything like super crazy, but it was kind of neat and kind of like, you know, mindless fun and creepy and whatnot. And I have a feeling this might be similar to that, because what this is about is very simplistic as well. It's basically about this this girl who has like supernatural powers, and she gets involved with like many different things and all that kind of stuff. So not a lot I can say about it, but I definitely do plan on reading this month, hopefully, once I get done reading what I have been reading. But yeah, like there's a, let me get to like one page here, like look at that. Like, I don't know how well you can see that, but that's just like fucking awesome. So yeah, if I ever do get volume 2, I'll definitely go more into detail what I really think about it. Alright, now this is the last manga that I picked up for this month, and this is one that I was very curious on. So this is 20th Century Boy from Naoki Urasawa. So for those that don't know, that is the creator of the anime Monster, and I fucking love that anime. Definitely became one of my all-time favorites as soon as I saw it. And when I found out about like this one, which is like, you know, from the same author and everything, I was very intrigued, and of course what the story's about also very intrigued me as well. And I actually did read this while I was out, like during one of the nights where I didn't have much to do, and I gotta say, I definitely love this shit. Like, I like can't wait to get like the later volumes as well, cause holy shit. So what this one's about is that it's very, if I can make it easier to explain, it's kind of like Stephen King's It, but take the clown and replace him with like a crazy cult leader. But it's pretty much like very similar to that, where, you know, it kind of has a coming of age story about all these like kids like growing up doing kid things, and you know they have like a secret hideout, and of course like years later when they're adults they come back to the hideout and they find like, you know, a time capsule that's in the spot that they used to have the hideout. And one thing that kind of like I thought was like kind of intrigued me about it too was that I was reading this while, you know, like I said, I was in Ottawa. And, you know, and that's an area that I grew up, like, throughout, like, most of my life, so going back there, seeing a lot of things change over time, like, seeing, like, oh yeah, like, that building there is not there anymore, or, oh yeah, that building is, like, super different than what it used to be. Well, this book kind of, like, covers a lot of stuff like that, where, like I said, when they go back to that spot, they get the time capsule back, like, they say, like, oh yeah, like, this is, like, now there's, like, a bunch of apartments here, and I was like, yeah, it really made me feel at home. It was really nice to read that, like, while I was out there. It was almost fucking perfect. But yeah, like I said, it like has the whole coming of age story, and then of course, like I said, there's like a crazy cult leader guy who's like harassing like these people, and are like, you know, he's probably gonna do like a lot of like crazy other things, I'm sure. But yeah, man, like I said, after I was done reading this, I was like, fuck, I wish I had more, because, like, it was just so fucking good. Just like with Monster, like, it really has a good way of, like, gripping you, like, hooking you into it and wanting to read more. So, yeah, definitely can't wait to read more of this. And like I said, if you love Monster, or if you love, like, any sort of, like, I don't know, like I said, like, something like, kind of like Stephen King's It, if you love, like, that story, you will definitely love this, I think. Alright, now we're going to be moving on to the novels. So, this one right here is, funny enough, we're going to be talking more James Bond, because it's a Bond novel, and that happens to be James Bond in The Man from Barbarossa, from John Gardner. Now, from my understanding of this, John Gardner was the author that kind of did like the later James Bond books after Ian Fleming died, so he kind of like, you know, took over the series, so to speak. Now, I've never read any of these, and I've was always curious about wanting to read, like, you know, the original, like, James Bond novels, but when I saw this, I thought it looked nice, and, you know, it's something a little different there, and I did read the little blurb here, and it did sound like something I could like. It's basically about James Bond having to rescue this guy from a terrorist organization in Barbarossa, so I was like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with like John Gardner. I'm sure some of my James Bond aficionados there will probably know more about this than I will. So yeah, if you know anything about any of these later ones, let me know. Next up, we got two Stephen King books that I picked up. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find many of the ones that I really wanted that I can't find in my area, but I did found this one, which made me happy, and that was The Running Man with Arnold on the cover. And, yes, so I actually did manage to read through this book just before I left my area there, because it's actually really short. Like, I think it was only, just 300 pages. Oh, no, not even 300. It was, like 219. 219 pages. So, yeah, it was really short. And I could make this into a full-length review if I wanted to, but I know it would take a lot of time. But I'll just keep it short and say that I like the book. I think it's pretty good, but I don't think it's, like, that much better than the movie. Like, the movie, I think, is more fun and over-the-top and, you know, kind of funny, where, like, in the book, however, you know, it's more, like, deadly serious and plays it pretty straight. And there are some things about the book I do like better, and then there are some things that I don't like as much, like, but I do think it is a pretty important book for, you know, the whole, like dystopian world type genre. Although I think it was done better in The Long Walk, which is also really good. I actually did read through that recently, but yeah, like I said, I could go way more in depth into this maybe in, like, a video in the future, but yeah, like I said, I'm glad I actually finally read it after all these years after being curious about it. Alright, now we got the last Stephen King book, and this is one that actually just came out not long ago, and that happens to be Fairy Tail, not to be confused with that one anime, but yes, yes, he made a book called Fairy Tail, and it's a full-fledged fantasy novel, so very similar to, you know, like Eyes of the Dragon, which I did read through as I picked it up in the last one, and yeah, it was actually quite good. I actually enjoyed it. I find it to be a very underrated book. And, but yeah, so this one's another fantasy one where it's about this kid and his dog end up going to another world. And apparently there's a lot of, like, world building, like, just before they get to that other world, so it's pretty interesting. Like, I haven't read it yet, obviously, but it sounds interesting. I think I am definitely gonna like this, and, if there's any other thing I can say about it is that, yeah, like, look at the cover. I think that's just really fucking cool looking. Even the UK cover actually looks really cool looking, too. I almost thought about just importing it, just because I just thought it looked so fucking awesome looking. Like, it's cool to know that he's still, like, putting out, like books, and I've heard that this book is actually quite good, too, from, like, the one channel that I've been watching lately, so, yeah. Like I said, it's always kind of cool to see him, like, kind of, like, you know, focus out on, like, other, like, genres that he hasn't explored much in, like, a long time. And next, we're going to be talking about some Michael Crichton books, who is an author that I've always wanted to read, especially after seeing a very big budget film that it's all about dinosaurs. You probably know the one. Yeah, Jurassic Park. So, unfortunately, I was not able to find a copy of Jurassic Park, which is kind of surprising to me, because that's, like, his most, like, top-selling book. You think, like, that book would be, like, fucking everywhere, but apparently not. Apparently all went extinct. So, anyways, but there are, like, other books that he's also done that kind of interested me, too. Like this one, which is, Sphere? Yeah, Sphere. So, this is a book about, there's, like, an underwater facility, and when I mean underwater, like, I mean, like, thousands of feet, like, below surface level. So, basically, like, to the point where, like, everything in the ocean and the water is, like, pitch black. So, that's pretty fucking terrifying to me. So, not only that, but they also, like, discover, like a sphere, and the sphere is, like, this, like, new, like, discovery that they're trying to, like, you know, like, do research on and all this type of stuff. And there's apparently a lot of, like, horror and thriller elements in here as well, which I'm very curious by. So, yeah, definitely is going to be a very cool book to read about, because like I said, like, just the whole, like, being underwater thing just sounds fucking terrifying to me, and I'm very intrigued by that. Alright, now, next Michael Crichton book I got is, Rising Sun, and I have to say, this is like the cleanest copy I've ever seen of this book, because I have seen a couple copies around here, but they were like, fucking, like, looked like shit, so it was kind of nice to see, like, a one that looks as good as this. So, yeah, so what is this book about? So, from what I remember what it's about, there's like a dead body gets discovered in a, on a Japanese building in America, and of course, so it's all about like crime, mystery kind of thing. But on top of that too, it's also kind of deals with cultural differences. So I don't know if you really think about it, it's basically weeb shit. Okay, not really. I know that's probably a horrible explanation of it there, but yeah, like I said, it kind of deals with the whole like cultural differences thing. So I'm very curious about that too. So. Yeah, I know there's a movie of this, and apparently it has Sean Connery in it, which is kind of like interesting to think about. But I don't really know a whole lot about it other than that. So if you guys have ever seen it, or if you read this book, then let me know. And as for the next one we got is Pirate's Latitude. So this is like a pirate and like adventure type of story, very simplistic stuff, but I think it could be fun. And plus, it was actually one of the last books that he wrote before he died. I think it was either the last or like one of the last ones that kind of released around like his death, which is kind of unfortunate. But I have heard that this book was actually like a pretty fun one. So like I don't think this one ever got made into a movie or anything. So I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it. But like I said, I think it looks like it could be fun. Alright, and as for the last Michael Crichton book that I found, and this is one that I was actually really excited when I found it, because it's actually one of the top interesting ones I wanted to read about outside of Sphere and Jurassic Park, and that is Timeline, with the really cool, like, night cover. So, what Timeline is about is that it's about a group of kids on a field trip, and they travel to France, and then somehow they end up like going back in time to like the medieval days, and then they have to try to like rescue people and try to get back to their normal time and all this kind of crazy stuff. So yeah, it's a time travel story, which I know is kind of one of those like concepts that I know some people are not crazy about them because they think they're too messy or whatever. But for me, I actually don't mind them. I think they can be kind of cool, but, of course, it's one of those types of concepts that, like, you can't really think about it too much, I think, but still, I think this one sounds really interesting to me. And plus, one weird fun fact I know is that, this book actually got made into a video game on the PC back in the day. It came out in the early 2000s, and it kind of has, like, this, like, mid to late 90s, like, PC graphics look, so it's kind of cool looking. If I can actually get it to work on my PC, I actually wouldn't mind reviewing it, because, it's one of those games that, like, literally no one fucking talks about, but, of course, I'll probably do that after when I'm done reading this book, but, yes, like, this is one that I'll definitely read, like, very, very soon. Alright, so now back to a mystery, horror, thriller type of book. This one happens to be Thomas Harris with Hannibal. This is the last book in the Hannibal series, and so I'm sure everyone knows about like the movies with Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, and of course Hannibal itself. But yeah, the books I've always been curious about reading them. In fact, I know one of my best friends like read all the books, and he's always told me about things about them. So even though I haven't read this book, I do know a lot of stuff that happens in it, and trust me. If you thought the movies were, like, hard to watch or had, like fucking crazy, like, shit in them, the books are, like, even more crazier. Like, for example, in the movie Hannibal, like, that scene where, like, Ray Liotta has, like, the top half of his head, like, cut out, and then they're, like, taking out his brain. Like, this book actually has, like, a lot more crazier stuff, if you could believe it. And I've heard about it from my friends, so it kind of got me, curious and wanting to read them one day. And now I have this, but of course, it's going to be a while before I get to this, because I still need to get Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs, which I'm hoping to get soon. But still, like I said, very, very cool series, I think. Of course, everyone knows them from the movies, and the movies are all fucking great. Alright, and as for the last thing that I got in this pickup video, as you can see, this is a very massive thing, so I'm not, like, showing myself because it's really fucking heavy, and that is the Tolkien Lord of the Rings box set of all the books. So this is what it all looks like. Like I said, really cool front cover here, and then you got like this side, which also looks really fucking awesome. Yeah, the artwork that is all on these books are just fucking amazing, as you would expect. Yeah. And then, of course, we got the actual books right here with The Hobbit, which hopefully I can get this out easy, because I don't want to wreck these, because they're very, very precious. My precious, So yeah, this is The Hobbit. Very, very cool cover. And then, the back is also, like, pretty different as well. Yep, with the dragon and all that. Yeah, very, very awesome shit. Now, I actually have read 2 of these books. I've read The Hobbit back in the day, and I also did read Fellowship of the Ring back in the day as well. But the thing is that, like, I read these when I was, like, fucking younger, and I think a lot of it, like, I kind of, like, didn't really fully understand what was happening, because, I was so young at the time, so I think, like, some of it kind of went over my head a bit during that time. So, most of the shit that I do remember is mostly just from the movies, not gonna lie, but, still, they're great movies, and yes, this cover is also really awesome, too. And, yeah, that's, that part. And, alright, then there's the 2 towers, which also, yeah, it's a cool cover, too. Though, not as cool as the other ones, though, but still, like, kind of nice looking. Although that has some cool details to it, I will say that. And then the final book, Return of the King. Oh, no, please don't, like, get super stuck. Okay, hold on, let me, I gotta use 2 hands for this. Oh, yeah, look at that. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, see, that's just fucking great. Yeah, this was definitely worth the money. Like I said, this was not cheap, but it is just, okay, I'm just gonna leave that there. Yeah, it's not cheap at all, but it's definitely worth it, especially if you love the books and the movies, and, and you're just, like, all into this shit. But, yeah, that'll be it for the pickup video for this month. Like I said, a lot of shit. Mostly got a lot of books, but that's because I've just been getting into a lot of reading lately, and, and of course, a lot of books are also, like, a lot cheaper to get, too. Even though I just said, like, this was, like, really expensive, but, like, I didn't have to get this. Like, I could have just went out and bought, like, the boring-looking covered ones, but, no, I wanted to get the nice shit. So yeah, that'll be it for today's pickup video. So of course, let me know what you think about all this stuff. Do you have any experience or opinions on any of this stuff and all of that, and just let me know, and we'll have a discussion about it. So take it easy, everyone, and thanks for watching and commenting.